I didn't have a blueprint. And because of that, there's a lot of paths I went down that weren't great, but they have been their gifts unto themselves.
Oh.
Somebody gonna cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. Hey everybody, we're back with another episode of season 2 of Let's Talk Off Camera, so let's get talking.
Woo!
Okay. Buckle up,
It's
buttercups.
a big one.
Today we are talking with mega movie star and New York Times bestselling author Demi Moore. You may know her as G.I. Jane, possibly from a little film called Ghost, or from A Few Good Men, Margin Call, Indecent Proposal, About Last Night, If These Walls Could Talk, as well as countless others. My personal favorite right now, currently, is the FX show Feud. Capote versus the Swans.
So good.
Which I only refer to as the Swans.
The Swan. Me too. Now
The
because
Swans.
of you, I only say the Swans.
I only call it the Swans because to me, it's the Swans. While we wait for Demi to join, Jan is out this week, so Albert, let me tell you about the land of
I can't wait.
swimming pools and movie
I can't wait to
stars.
hear. You guys took it by storm.
Did we?
Ratings through the roof.
Ratings are.
Through the roof.
I credit Mark Consuelos with that. He has brought in this mega demographic of women between, the ages that advertisers care about. The women between 25 and 54 and 18 and 49. And then he's brought in men, which I was like, when has our show become not hostile towards men? But suddenly Mark has brought this audience, and to look out at that Dolby Theater and to see it packed from ceiling to floor with people standing in the
on the third balcony.
Standing on the third balcony, it was crazy. And I look to Mark and I go, it's never like this.
I just have to say, because a lot of people don't know, but you guys walk into a theater that has been prepped and planned for months at a time for a totally different show.
Right.
And within hours, pull off a live broadcast with precision that looks like you've been in the space for months rehearsing it in an hour. And it's like you get the keys to this place at midnight?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Like
2:30 a.m.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And Brian Chapman, our director, does an outstanding job.
It was a flawless show.
I often say he could direct the Academy Awards if he wanted to, and Gelman could produce the Academy Awards if he wanted to. Although the Academy Awards would come in way under budget if Gelman produced them.
It was so great. You guys used the panels.
Yeah, we used everything.
used everything.
We utilized all of it.
It was amazing.
We're not used to having bells and whistles. We're going to use them. And of course, because it is our show, the wrong year was loaded into the teleprompter.
Oh my God.
And I read the year 2023. And people were
Which
like...
I didn't even blink about. I don't know why.
I didn't blink about it either. You're so terrified and you marry yourself to hit that star on the floor and read that teleprompter as wrote.
Right.
Most of our show is ad-libbed,
Right.
which we don't worry about at all because we know what we're saying. And yes, I know what year it is. And by the way, I know what day of the week it is. But
Doesn't matter.
because there is something on the teleprompter, you say it as wrote. And so the person that wrote the wrong date down apologized to me. And I said, I don't want you to apologize because, I get it. We make mistakes. And that's big of the person to apologize. But it went from one person to the person that loads it into the computer, to the person that runs the teleprompter on the West Coast, to the person. So about 18 people
right.
read that before I read it, and nobody thought anything was wrong with it. So
That's
when
funny.
I came out bleary-eyed and exhausted from working all night and 3 hours of sleep, people might forgive me for looking for the star, looking up, and reading it as wrote.
It didn't matter, Kelly. It was, the whole beginning was just being shot out of
I'm
the
just saying it's still a humble little show. We're going to put the wrong date
in the prompter.
And you're going to read it because you are Ron Burgundy.
Did you go to any fun parties?
No, we did not go to parties. What's so funny is I haven't gone to the parties in several years because I just know how much more important it is for me to go to that post-production meeting.
Yeah.
And, by the time we're done deconstructing, getting the makeup off, moisturizing.
From the backstage stuff,
From the backstage stuff. Because we're working, people are watching the Academy Awards, but we're at the Academy Awards working.
And you're working after it wraps because you're
Yes.
still interviewing people.
But what was right, exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to the governor's
And you're
ball,
still
and we're
there.
still working. So what was so funny was Mark Consuelos this year. It finally dawned on him because for many years he would drag me from party to party to party, and I'm like, but I have to be at work in 1 hour, and he's like, oh come on, we can swing by
I
Madonna's.
know that's the biggest shocker.
Oh,
of the whole
come
thing.
on. And I'm like, but I have to work. You don't understand. I have to work. This year, it dawned on Mark that he too should not go to a single party. So Mark didn't go to a party
I'm
either.
dead over that.
And it's, it was funny watching him wrestle with himself. I know him
Because
so
he goes to
well.
all of them normally.
He goes to all of them.
Yeah.
He goes to all of the parties. And he is a good time Charlie. And he has a lot of fun. And it's good because, like, sometimes he would report to us really interesting things
Right.
that we would miss. But for the most part, he would just come backstage
Right.
and sleep on the sofa in the dressing room. And,
But you went to some parties beforehand in the days leading up, right? Or
we
a
did.
couple?
We went to a lot of parties beforehand. Friday night, we went to the CAA
Yeah, that's
party. Saturday night, we went to our friend's party. We had a barbecue during the day, all very glamorous, all very star-studded events.
My God.
Saw Leonardo DiCaprio, which was very exciting.
Wow.
Saw all the big stars. Saw, who I saw because it was just so fortuitous. I texted Michael because Michael's in New York.
Right.
And he was leaving for Florida to go see his girlfriend. And I said, listen, Dad and I are taking off for LA. And he goes, oh, break a leg with the show. And he goes, hey, listen, if you happen to see Jeff Goldblum, just
Stop.
tell him how much I love him and what a fan I am of his work. And we land, hair and makeup,
Right.
to the CAA party. And as we're getting ready to leave, who's walking
No.
towards us? Jeff Goldblum.
No.
Yeah. And his beautiful wife. They are so lovely and
How
so
crazy
divine
that-
and so kind and down to earth. And I go, I've got to tell you something. And I was like, it's going to sound untrue, but it's true. Our son, who is 26 years old, who we have dubbed Jeff Goldblum
Yes.
many times. He, got the same glasses as Jeff Goldblum.
Loves him.
He has a very Goldblum-esque quality to him, very much.
Mikey.
And I told him what Michael said, and he goes, "Oh, we've got to take a picture." He's
No,
like, "Come on,
you
Nick."
know.
He's like, "We've got to take a picture." So we whip out the camera, and he's like, "Everybody say Michael, 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 Michael. Come on, Michael." And I was just like taking the pictures. Well, Mark was taking the picture, so I was very nervous about it. I was like, if you fuck this, because my arm is not long enough.
And Mark did it.
Yes, Mark did it.
Did you send it to Michael?
I sent it to Michael.
Did he flip out?
He flipped out. Flipped out. And I told him that I said instead of saying cheese, we were saying Michael. And he's like, no, seriously? I was like, yes, seriously.
It's so the one celebrity, like the only one he mentions.
Yeah, the only of in that land.
That's crazy.
If you happen to see Jeff Goldblum, and I was like, where am I going to see Jeff Goldblum? Maybe he'll be a presenter. I don't know. He's not on my list so far. Like, because we
Right.
get a list of all the presenters. And so is she
ready.
here?
Yeah,
She's ready? Oh, this is very exciting, guys.
Hey.
Hi, my beauty. So gorgeous. Now, to me, we are an off-camera podcast, hence the name Let's Talk Off Camera. So I'm going to describe you
Okay.
to our listeners.
Okay.
Ready, listeners? Demi Moore, spoiler alert, looks flawless.
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 That's very kind. I appreciate that. I love that we're both sporting some excellent glasses.
Yes, I wanted to be able to see you because I felt like I saw you all weekend, but I really didn't get to see you until I put my glasses on and looked at social media. And then I could really see you because without my glasses on, I can't see anything.
You and me both. Well, let me just say, I didn't get to see you on the night that you were just working your butt off, which was the actual Oscar night. But I did catch a gorgeous photo of you and your beloved on the red carpet. And wow, can I just say, wow. I mean,
Thank you.
You two were really, you are a good looking couple.
Coming from you, that means a lot because you know how we feel about you. You just are one of the great loves of our life, besides our children.
Well, it is always a joy getting to see you, even though briefly.
Briefly, always too briefly. You know, Mark and I were saying this about you. You are the tallest petite person we have ever met in our lives. Because, you know, we were at that party Friday night where you were, and Mark goes, "Oh, there's Demi. Let's go grab." You know, we were like, "Oh," and we interrupted your conversation, which I did not realize you were having with Diane Nyad. So we like interrupt and like savages. I'm like, "Sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to say hi." But it's so funny because you look like the tallest person in the room. And then when you get up on you, you realize that you're actually very petite.
It's like that movie Get Shorty. I am definitely I mean, I'm not super short, but you're right. I am not tall. But I'm trying to think of, well, on Saturday when I saw you, I had super, super high shoes on.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yes. I had to have
Yeah.
some super high shoes just so that my legs looked extra long.
They really do. And I know you probably hate this, but here's the thing. When you become famous young, as you did, you became very famous, you were very young, and you became, dare I say, a sex symbol. Okay? That can be a really scary thing in the film industry. And lucky for you, you were able to also not just be a movie star sex symbol, but you're so super talented that your work overshadowed all of your other attributes. The work always stood, you know, it's like Demi Moore could read a phone book in a burlap sack and still be riveting. However, you do have this like incredible body. You've got this incredible physique, and you've maintained it.
Although I think my greatest performance and greatest role I've ever played is being a sex symbol because it is so not who I am.
Right, I know. Like, I know you don't see yourself that way, but you know, listen, Demi came to dinner at our house, and I'm going to tell the story because they were like, it was a bunch of wrestling coaches.
Oh my God.
So it's like a bunch of University of Michigan wrestling coaches and Mark at dinner. And Mark was like, I was like, Demi and I'll have dinner. Like, we're just going to have a girls' dinner. We don't want to bother you guys. He's like, nobody's going to be bothered. And then he kept texting me. He's like, come up for dessert, come up for dessert. And because we now know you, as real you, but they don't know you as you. They only know you as sex symbol Demi Moore. So it was like this collective, what the fuck?
I can't.
Like, we serve like strawberry shortcake.
Stop.
And here comes Demi Moore.
What an entrance.
Yeah, it was quite an entrance.
I was the party favor.
The party favor to end all party favors. So I want to talk about your career, which has always been on fire and continues to be. And if you haven't read Demi's book, Inside Out, you must. It's a must read. It's a bestseller for a reason. I believe that if you're a woman in any industry, you must read this book because it is a blueprint for survival. By the way, and you didn't have a blueprint, but watching you navigate show business without said blueprint and surviving and thriving and going through some bullshit, sexist bullshit. I mean, tabloids, you've been through it. And watching you maintain a level of excellence and now land on this show, which I simply call The Swans, even though it's called Feud Capote versus The Swans. You play Ann Woodward,
Yes.
a real person. Can you tell our listeners about her story? Because it is so compelling.
Yeah, I mean, literally, there could have been a whole thing just really exploring her life, which is actually quite a sad life in so many respects. She started out as kind of a radio star and a dancer, and she married into a very influential banking family of that time, which was the Woodward family. And she had kind of a tumultuous, bit volatile kind of relationship with her husband. Um, uh, dare I say, love hate. But she, as somebody who did not come from social standing or family social standing at that time in 50s, 60s, she was never accepted. No matter how hard she tried, no matter how perfect she did it, she was never accepted by his mother, and thereby was always a bit pushed to the outside in society. And there was, still at that time, I think even more of a need for that type of validation. And throughout her life, even as she had children, learned to set the table properly, learned to throw a party, all of those things that was, on their kind of criteria. And I think, also there was a lot of prescription drugs that were very much, very acceptable because it was a doctor's prescription. And so she, tended to self-medicate, a lot of drinking, a lot of, cigarette smoking, as was normal for the time. And so her big moment was she, post having a party with the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, they came home and there had been a burglar in this area that was quite the talk. Was on their roof, and she accidentally shot her husband. And so that really then sent her down an even deeper rabbit hole of rejection. That Truman Capote really jumped on the opportunity to use his dinner table fodder and entertainment, saying that she was a murderess.
Why was Truman Capote such a mean girl, do you think?
I think in some ways, I think he had a little bit of a personal vendetta with Anne Woodward, but I think the truth is that everybody in a certain way was fair game if to be used for entertainment. It's like, why let the truth get in the way of a good story? Why? Like, I think that whatever, and I think that he had a very hard life as well. I think in many ways, Anne really was so much more like his mother.
That's what I was going to say. So you would think that
he was tortured by his mother and abandoned by
yes.
her. So he and as I say in the show, where he calls her out, and when I'm asking him why, he feels that she referred to him as a fag, which is but the scene I have, we take it to an even harsher degree. I don't even want to say that word again.
No, you don't have to say it again.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. So Albert, what did you, Albert?
It literally, when the camera cuts to you in that scene in the restaurant, the look on your face scared the shit out of me. I was like petrified, and oh my God, it was unbelievable. When you come over, the energy, it was like
you're a masterclass.
A masterclass.
A masterclass in that scene.
Well,
masterclass.
It was an intense scene and juicy and super fun.
Oh.
And,
yeah.
And the other night I had these two young people say, it's like the thing now that they're all saying is like going around is saying about others, is venomous. You know what?
Yes, right. TikTok star Demi Moore.
But then poor Anne, literally, who never overcame being not accepted. I think when Truman wrote this article that came out, I think it really was the straw that broke the camel's back of a whole life.
Yeah.
And took her own life. Her son then took his own life 2 years later. And then her other son, 20 years later, killed himself. So this family has a lot of
tortured.
Yeah, very, very sad.
I do think there is something, and I hope against hope that Ryan Murphy does Anne Woodward. I would like for him to do the Swans individually, because we got the Thanksgiving table, but I would like to know about each entree separately. I really would.
I mean, there's so many there. You're right. I mean, you get a lot more Babe, who was his kind of
Right.
closest friend, but these women were, I think, fascinating, um, and powerhouses in their own right, and very interesting reflection of the time of, like some people, they like, while their lives revolved in many respects around their husbands' lives, like what they did and the work they did to kind of achieve that kind of, it doesn't come easy. Like, that, like,
No, they controlled everything. They controlled the social stratosphere.
exactly.
Yeah. And by the way, there are still those people still exist. I mean,
It is interesting. I think we've just opened, like, the frame has opened a little wider. But I think
mhm,
that's what's so interesting about the show, is how it's really touching on so much of that aspect of need of validation, the external acceptance that,
mhm,
is somewhat inherently human. And also that idea of the cancel culture that we're kind of
right.
existing in, where there's no room to make mistakes, which, by the way, we don't learn without making mistakes. If I can say anything through my book, is that, I didn't have a blueprint. And because of that, there's a lot of paths I went down that weren't great, but they have been their gifts unto themselves. And I feel like we're living in a time that's even giving us less room to
No,
act.
there's no grace, and even people that make mistakes and apologize, I've found that their apologies are not accepted. So there's no road to redemption for anything anymore ever. So people fall silent and they stick to their own, everybody sort of retreats into themselves, I think.
Which I think is taking us backwards, as opposed to the idea that we know that we all make mistakes. And the truth, I think, is that you have to give somebody room to make amends, to make that amends. And it's when it's after being confronted with the mistake, the wrongdoing, the misstep, it's what they do with it. And if somebody does something different, owns it, takes responsibility, and makes reparation, I think we have to give them the room. Like, stripping people of their livelihood, stripping people of their opportunity, to me, it just doesn't make sense. And it's also creating separation of what I call a one up, one down, and not kind of creating that compassion for the humanity that exists in all of us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, throughout your career, and like I said to everyone listening at home, you have to pick up Demi's book. I'm going to say it every 15 minutes
Thank you. Thank you.
until,
It would be nice, like, to share it. That's the whole point. You've done it. Like,
yeah.
when you get in there and you share so vulnerably, like,
Well,
you
I
know,
told you I read your book in one sitting. I was going out to visit Mark in Vancouver. I picked your book up at the airport and I read it in one sitting and I burst through the door all fired up in Vancouver. I came in I came in like a changed woman and I was like, "Do you know what the press called Demi Moore when she finally advocated for herself for a fair payday after making these film companies billions of dollars?" And Mark was like, "Okay, hold on. What are you talking about?" Mark was like,
Happy to see you.
You're going to have to catch me up. You're going to have to, yeah, calm down. You're coming in hot." I mean, it was really astounding. But you were the first that I'm aware of, and maybe I'm wrong, but you were advocating for pay equity for women. And I think it was during striptease, if I'm not wrong, or G.I. Jane.
they were right at the same time. And yeah, the idea of, why were we not getting what men were getting if we were having the draw to do it? Um, and we were taking on the weight and the responsibility of it. And Um, and that was definitely a game changer for all women, which was the most important part, which is, let's, like anything, it just takes one time to start to open up the perception, and and the discrepancy was quite extreme at that point.
Extraordinary. And what's so funny is you had blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster, and then in the book she sort of compares what the guys were getting paid, which was so vastly different. And then Demi fights for pay equity, and the tabloids dub her "Gimme More."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You were the premier movie star, and then Demi fights for pay equity, and the tabloids dub her "Gimme More."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They act like you were somehow some greedy woman out there for a handout. Am I making this up?
No, no, that's fairly accurate. And what was even more interesting for me was what occurred after, meaning we finished the films, and way before, particularly G.I. Jane was about to come out, way before. It's like nobody had even seen it, and they were already putting it down, cutting me down, killing it, almost with this idea that if they could, like, pull that rug out from it succeeding, then they would prove that I was being greedy, that I wasn't worthy. That's what it is, that I'm not worthy of it. And what's odd is I don't take it personal, even though it didn't feel great at all. Um, I think that it wasn't personal to me. I think there was an unconscious need of just being contrary, which I feel like we hear all the time when people kind of go back and they, look back over situations where, the press can pick something up and twist it and crush something. And they really did. They set out to crush it. And I have to say, I'm grateful that the film G.I. Jane in particular really holds up, and it's a really good movie, and
Yeah.
that they missed a great opportunity with a great director, a wonderful script, and wonderful actors to really celebrate.
But this is a thing that I find it's uniquely attached to women. There is a misogyny to it. And oftentimes it's other women, you know, if there's a particularly harsh article or something particularly negative, I'm just going to speak on my own behalf, written
Yeah.
about me, very frequently it's a woman writing it. And I'm always astounded by that. The misogynist tone. It's almost like a self-hatred or something. And I can't figure it out because I don't do girl on girl crime. I find it disgraceful.
Well, it's interesting, and that may I know that does and has existed. I had an article. Again, this is a long time ago and not so reflective for me of what's occurring now. Um, of the worst. It was the shittiest article that was so not accurate that I spent years having to live down the perception that was created in Vanity Fair. After and what's interesting is it was the article that was in my cover when I was pregnant.
Right. When you were
Which
pregnant.
and somebody said to me, "Well, the good news is nobody will remember the article, but they'll only remember the image."
That's true. That's true because you're so gorgeous.
And so, in truth, it didn't last. And I don't know, I don't know if the slant was just her personal slant, if it was jealousy, if it was. Um, but what I can truly say is she didn't see or feel me as a person. Like
She
didn't.
already had the article written when she went in
100%.
there.
But
Yeah.
literally, um, she created and planted these seeds that I was demanding. I was a diva. She said that I had an entourage of 20 people, which, like, things that are just not like how I am,
Right.
because she was including hair and makeup from a movie, which everybody has. I had one assistant, and I had a nanny for a baby
Right.
who came to visit. But it was interesting because literally I remember then many years later, um, my my agents having to like talk with Rob Reiner, who just wanted to make sure what
Right.
he might be getting into. And so the impact and the damage did have like repercussions that were
Of course.
irresponsible.
Of course. And did you suspect that she already had a foregone conclusion about you? Like,
I think what I will say is the more centered I've become and more comfortable I've become with who I am, the less I feel that it matters, and that
mm,
I actually end up having or pulling towards myself those situations. Meaning,
mm,
like, if I am holding the fear of that or the suspicion, I feel like then it's like, I feel like the universe then brings me that. And then I get the confirmation bias when the article comes out and it's not nice. But when I shift now, and it's not like that I'm not conscious or I'm just aware now, who am I doing this with? Where let me know who they are as opposed to just some random, like, let me really feel. And the same is true just in general, in life. I feel like um, the more positive almost everything then becomes, because
mm.
I don't need it. And I think I had a lot of fear back then of how I'm perceived. What do people think? I
I
was
better bend over backwards to make sure that everybody. Yeah, it's like sometimes you go out of your way to prove that you're not the thing you think that they think you are.
more.
Right. That's it. That's so funny. You've raised these three beautiful daughters, and now I can't believe I'm going to say it, you're a grandma.
I am.
Do you love having that baby?
Oh, she is just the sweetest, happiest little thing. I mean, the joy, and I have to say, now that she's almost 11 months old, her birthday, she's going to be a year next month. I can't believe it. I can really start to step back and go, wow, I'm watching my child have a child. And I see the beauty of like how she is with her. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. I can see like some of, oh gosh, I remember those fears of like the disastrous things happening and the over concern, and how I truly also have that. But I also see just how there's aspects of the effort and work I did and how she is as a mother. And
Yeah.
it just fills me with so much just joy
Yeah.
and pride. She's an incredible mother, and as a grandmother, some of the cliches are so true. You get to play, they get to love you, you get to like be like one of their favorite people, and then you go good night.
And her name is Luetta?
Luetta.
It's a great name.
And it was an accidental creation, as the names were being kind of written out of possible names. And I think they were going to put Loretta on there. And it was like when they were typing it in, the R got dropped. And she then looked back at it and was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a great name. I was going to
Loretta.
say that's a really great, unique, beautiful name.
But I just call her Scooby. Scooby Loo.
Scooby?
Scooby
Scooby
Loo
Loo. So you were there when she was born, right?
was indeed.
Tell me about that. Like, was that intense? Were you very calm and focused? Were you like, I would be an Italian mother
It was
screaming?
both of the first two things because it was intense and I was very calm. But I was
Ah,
very calm at my own births. And I had my children. So Rumor was at Scout's birth, and then
mm,
Scout and rumor were at Tallulah's birth. So there was a general sense of this very kind of family extension. So we were all there. So Scout, Tallulah, myself, and of course Pilaf as well.
And Pilaf.
Another great
You
name.
know what? We have to, by the way, we cannot continue this interview without acknowledging Pilaf.
I was going to say,
there's
my
Pilaf.
goodness.
Pilaf, the internet
Stop it.
sensation, took Fashion Week by storm.
Oh, yes.
I mean, was backstage at Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
You
man.
name it. This dog. I met Pilaf in Paris.
You did.
I was in Paris when I met Pilaf.
lunch. I brought her to lunch. That was your first intro on
Yes. And you were shooting a movie there, and you adopted Pilaf. Now I always say, my dogs hit the jackpot when we adopted them, but your dogs really hit the jackpot because your dogs live a life of complete fantasy, and you take them everywhere you go.
Pilaf is my most, she is my travel companion. And,
She's so transportable.
I mean, she's a pound and a half. But she's also, as you have seen, her temperament is so calm and sweet. She loves kids. When she hears a baby's voice, like she's desperate to get to them, loves all other animals. So I can take her anywhere without any big like worry. She's not going to bite anybody. She's not, she's just like relaxed. Her one request is she needs real grass to go
Yes.
to the bathroom on. And
Right.
so I don't think it's so demanding. So I make sure
I watched that in Paris. I watched Pilaf needed grass to go.
Travel.
Pilaf doesn't like. It's so funny because our dogs are such city dogs. They don't like to go in the grass. It feels weird for them. They don't like the sensation on their paws. Like they think it's weird.
they're ready for the concrete.
They want the concrete. They would prefer concrete or the carpet in our living room.
Well, we have had, but when you introduce the grass, I think they understand the difference, that the carpet is not an option.
No, I'm telling you, we've taken them to Central Park and we will walk in that grass for hours. And the second we hit the pavement, they're like, oh, thank God. Thank God. If it's not a silk rug, let me shit here.
One of those too, by the way. So when
Yeah,
you
of
have
course.
as many dogs as I have, you have kind of mixed personalities and mixed preferences that
Yeah. How many dogs do you have?
there are 7 total,
7 dogs.
but all small.
You gave us that amazing, because Demi was at our house when one of our dogs decided to they were like, I think they were so starstruck by Demi, they just decided to shit all over the carpet. So you bought us that Bissell pet cleaner.
It's the best, by
That
the
thing
way.
is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
The wrestling coaches
been a
also
game
shit all over
changer.
the carpet.
Yeah, the wrestling coach is also shit.
Well, you can use the Bissell on the chairs too. Thank God.
So tell me about Landman. This is Taylor Sheridan's new show. Have you met him yet? Have you started yet? So tell me about Landman. This is Taylor Sheridan's new show. So you're like the hottest thing, and he is the hottest thing. So 2 of the hottest things are teaming up. Have you met him yet? Have you started yet?
So I've shot only 2 days so far
Okay.
of this first season. And I leave to go back tomorrow. It's Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm, Allie Lover. And it's set in Fort Worth. And it's kind of really delving into the world of oil.
Oil.
So good.
And so, for me, this will be really interesting because, I think a lot more will really be revealed in season 2 for me.
These Taylor Sheridan shows, They just give and give and give. I don't know, like, how his brain works.
First of all, I mean, he's a true cowboy.
Yeah, he
Like,
is.
like this. I mean, he wears
He
spurs.
uses his own
They're
horses.
all
His
his own
yeah,
horses. He's got a
yeah.
beautiful ranch. But this is what is so amazing about, I think, both Taylor and Ryan Murphy, is that I feel kind of like we have the more kind of East Coast kind of, high glamour, and then we have like kind of like the West,
Yeah, it's like city mouse, country mouse
yes,
versions of
combo,
yeah.
right? But both super powerhouses, but both of them in their own ways um, have such an appreciation for women, the and the kind of complexities of these female characters, as opposed to it being surface. And the when I met with him, I went and did a deep dive. I had already watched quite a bit, but I really even did more of a deep dive on all of Taylor's, work. And I was so blown away by just how interesting and strong the women were in all of his shows. I mean, and when you agreed to do this, as I did, and as did other actors, you don't get a script.
So you don't know what you're getting into.
Nope. But I can tell you what I had seen of everything he had done with his female characters really just instilled me with so much confidence to say, you know what? Let's roll the dice. Let's go. Well,
Yeah.
I think we'll have fun. We'll have fun with this. And I still don't know everything of where
You
it's
still
going.
don't know. Do you have an idea? I always say, are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Well, everything will remain to be seen, because the truth is, as human beings, we all have a little bit of everything.
Right. Of
Um,
course.
and so, I can say that in the kind of dual worlds, there's the kind of roughneck world, and then there's those who are the oil tycoons. And I'm part of the latter.
I like it. I smell a good wardrobe.
Yes, yes.
You had me at oil.
A nice designer pull.
Yes, I like it a lot.
And there'll be even a lot more revealed in season 2.
How long does it take you to activate your actor brain after a break from working? Or is it something you can like flip on and off at will?
I mean, it just depends. I do like to have a little bit of time, not so much for what I would call the top layer, meaning learning your lines, but really getting a kind of deeper into the inside of a character, to giving a fuller life, so that what you're bringing isn't just what's on the page.
Yeah.
Just a different, like a full life feeling, um, that maybe isn't, it's more in the unconscious part of you that you can bring to it.
And what's your process for accessing that?
I mean, I think that there's a variety of things. In the case of Anne Woodward, I tried to like find and read as much as I could about her, because the responsibility of playing a real person, while it was dramatized for the purpose of the show, I still wanted to get as much insight. I don't really even look that much like her, but I think for Ryan, he wanted kind of more the essence, the feeling of her, as opposed to it being that I looked like her. I didn't. She was blonde and
Right.
redheaded. I don't look anything
Right.
like her. So I really like read as much as I could about her story. And it was interesting because people were like, oh, but she really did it. And I said, for whoever of that family is still alive, I want to make sure that my perception that I am playing, like if it was a cover up, I want to play that, even if what
Right.
I was saying was that I didn't do it. But the truth is, after the forensic, after all of that, it was accidental, and such a sad accidental, by the way. I'll just add, it was a buckshot that even if it had gone directly at him and his body would not have killed him, one little bead ricocheted off the wall and went straight into his temple. It's like the most freak accident that could have occurred.
That is crazy.
It's like one of those where you're like, in any other like slight situation, it literally was a pinged off and went directly in his temple and killed him.
That's crazy.
But when you have already material that you can kind of go and really dip into and absorb, I think it also gives you so much more life in that case. And so in the case of Landman, it's based on some real women that Taylor and his wife Nick know. And so they very generously, when I was there a couple of weeks ago, set up a little get together with a bunch of these ladies. That was fantastic. And we spent 5 hours and they do it all the time with all of these women who, wow, I have to say, these are all Fort Worth women, not Dallas women, Fort Worth women.
That's different.
By the way, it is different. And they are powerhouses. They have built the museums. They have they're on the boards of the college. They are part of the infrastructure of that city. And it was incredible to just spend this time with all of these women. And I'm looking forward to going out to some of the ranches and just kind of, really being with them.
How were they dressed? Tell me, give me a description of jewelry, hair, outfits. Because I have friends that know some people from Fort Worth, and they went on vacation with them. And when they got there, they received Louis Vuitton luggage as a thank you gift, as a gift for just coming on the vacation.
Wow. Well, first of all, we were meeting in a new private club of a new hotel attached to the new Canyon Ranch Spa.
Oh,
okay. So that was super great. I would say we were all dressed actually fairly elegant, not gaudy at all. Definitely, some decent, more than decent, some,
designer stuff.
Yes, you said it.
Yes. Yeah, no, the real stuff. They're wearing the real, not the fake shit like Albert and I wear. They were wearing real Chanel.
Real Chanel.
Real Chanel.
I did notice that most of them had on their Eternity band with their Substantial Rock.
Uh-huh. Give me a size of a rock. Are we talking a small
Taylor
ice skating rink?
Maybe Taylor said it in jest. He said, the size of the stone reflects the love. But what I loved is, as opposed to it just being like a status move,
yeah,
most of them said they started with one and then they had that,
it upgraded as the right.
Yes. And I asked, I did ask, about their jewelry. I said, the jewelry that they wear. And they said a lot of it is sentimental because, unlike us, we borrow.
Of course. Right? I was like, sentimental. What does that mean?
We borrow it. They own it.
Damn it. I wish I had negotiated your contract. I wish I had I'd be like, okay, any jewelry I borrow for this project, I must keep.
And I haven't met her, but there's this woman who I guess is quite a character. And she has, brought jewels for us for one of my first scenes though,
so she's lending you her personal jewelry?
Well, I had one of the ladies said, please just come to my closet.
When you go to her closet, can you take me as your assistant? I will be so quiet. I swear to God, I will be so quiet. I just want to see. I just want to look at it. I just want to look at the stuff.
You and me both. The thing I did realize is, one, in Fort Worth, they love going out. At the hotel that I was staying in, I came back in and I said, oh wow, is there an event going on tonight? And the very sweet, super handsome, young manager said, oh no, this is just a regular night. I was
People are dressed and they're proper, right?
it's like there is a joy for the effort and of going out, like a kind of I think across the board. But at the same time, what I'll say that I've heard so many times from different people is that you can go to a restaurant and there could be three billionaires in there and you won't have a clue who's who.
Right.
That
Right.
it's not pretentious.
Right.
So whatever they have, it's not as kind of over the
Showy.
yeah. So I'm, I haven't spent enough time there yet, but I think what I've had a taste of so far has been really fun.
I like it.
Cartier did loan me jewelry for one of my scenes that was quite delicious. So,
Really?
mm.
Can you tell me anything of substance about your character? Is she married to a person?
Yes, I'm married to John Hamm. I feel like I can say that. And
Yeah.
he, has a extremely successful billionaire level company. And but good marriage, good family, like she's devoted to her daughters. And again, more will be revealed
Got it.
in season 2.
In season 2. I love that there's already season 2.
It's amazing.
Don't you love employment?
It is nice. I realize I really like being busy. And you said something earlier, like, oh, my career's always been on fire. And I will tell you, that's actually not true. When I hit 40,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they didn't know what to do with me. Now I feel like women in their 40s, it's a shift in perception that's
Correct.
occurred. But I was part of the transitioning crowd, and there was like a little bit like, we don't have anything for you.
But I do feel like you helped shift the perception. I don't know if it was Charlie's Angels or, you came out of the water in a bikini and it was like, remember me, here I am.
But at the same time, after that, it was a little bit, and I will tell you, I heard, well, you look too young to play this, and you're not, 30. And
Right.
I literally was told we don't really know what to do with you.
Yeah.
What's been interesting seeing the shift that we've gone through, and while it's so challenging that going to the movies has become less, or a lesser part of the experience for movie
Less of
going.
an event. Yeah, right.
We watch so much at home, but part of what's happened with streamers is the realization that there is a huge demographic that wants to be served, that's of powerful women, and in some case, women not 30, women not 40, women in their
That's right.
50s, 60s, 70s. It's exciting.
That's where the money is, by the way. Advertisers. I mean, that's actually where the money is. It's like, it's very funny that they put such a premium on women of a certain age up to a point, but it's like, they're not as financially flushed and they're not going to spend their money the
spending
way
it, yeah.
women in their 50s and 60s and 70s spend their money. And women in their 50s and 60s and 70s are now keeping themselves thanks to diet, exercise, fitness routines, modern medicine.
Yes.
Women are much younger. They look younger, they feel younger, they have the vitality of a much younger person.
100%. I mean,
And 20s and 30-year-olds are still beating the shit out of themselves. It hasn't, like, time hasn't caught up with them yet.
trust
So
me,
it's like,
I try to communicate this idea of, like, I think about all the things that I obsessed over when I was in my
Oh, yeah.
20s and
oh my
30s.
God.
every flaw that I thought, and I would like, and now I think, God, I'd love those to be my flaws.
It's so true.
As the skin is as skin is going and it's is having its own program.
I'm sorry, I've seen you naked. You of all people don't get to complain about skin. You have been blessed.
I'm not gonna say that there aren't certain things that, but I will say loose skin, which I have a friend who used to say, "Oh, this loose skin." And of course, my arrogance was like, yeah, I had no connection to it. Now it's hitting me of what she was talking about.
Yeah, I try never to turn around and look in the mirror ever if I'm naked. Ever,
it's so rude. It's so
I'm like, is that a dunked tea bag? No, that
come
is
on.
Your body is ridiculous.
You haven't seen it naked.
Okay. Next time I come over,
we're gonna have naked time again.
Naked time.
We're gonna have naked time again.
And the wrestlers just shit on the rug again.
We're gonna invite the wrestlers over. Anyway, Demi, it has been a pleasure having you on our humble podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, movie star, television star, star of the new Taylor Sheridan show, Landman, where she plays a filthy rich oil doyen.
Draped in Cartier. Hermes, Chanel.
and sentimental jewelry, whatever that means.
Sentimental 20 carats.
Let's get it right.
This old thing.
Get it right.
Can your wrist hold that? Can your wrist hold up your hand with a ring that big?
I would give it everything I've got.
You'll learn how to try.
I'll do it.
Yeah, you'll do it. Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it. Love you.
Woo-hoo!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I mean, guys, movie star.
Movie star. Wow.
It was epic. I mean, feud, Capote versus Swans, Landman.
I just want to hear her say new hotel attached to Canyon Ranch. One more time. That sentence
every
alone.
Word she says. I want to hear her say, these women have sentimental jewelry. But I do get a sentimental attachment to every piece of jewelry I borrow. And I'm very sad when they take it away from me. I want to go into the closet of the woman that said, come over and borrow my jewelry. I'm done.
Can you imagine these women meeting her in that setting? Like,
yeah, because they're all starstruck.
Yeah.
They're all starstruck and they're like, that Demi Moore is so down to earth.
Oh!
Right? I mean, this is my bad.
Wearing
Texas
their best of everything, knowing they're meeting her.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And she's so effortlessly chic. Oh, I just love her so much. Well, that's it, everybody. That's all you get. Okay? Now, make sure you tell your friends about us, rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And remember, 5-star reviews are mandatory. If you do not give a 5-star review, Roz will not give birth.
Keep my legs crossed.
Roz,
Yes,
the pressure's on.
So the pressure is on for all of you listeners. All right, everybody, that's it. Can't wait to talk off camera next week. Bye-bye. Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillen, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.